Hey there, BookTube. It's Russell. Welcome to the Reading Fabricator, and I'm hoping you're doing well. Hoping you're reading lots of books. I myself am having a fantastic year when it comes to reading. That's why I thought I'd do sort of this thing that a lot of these booktubers do, which is this mid-year thing, or June wrap up or May wrap up. I don't intend on doing like a monthly thing, but I figured this year is different, and I thought I'd share it with you. It's sort of a mid-year wrap up, and I might do one at the end of the year. And the reason for that is because this is my best reading year since 2018. It's been 4 years, yeah. 2018, I think I read close to 50 books, which for me is a personal highlight. I'm not a fast reader, so I was quite happy that I did that. But then from 2090 and 2019 onwards, so 19, 20, and 21, I probably read between 10 and 15 books each year, so I think it's about one a month. So it was very slow reading years, of which of those 3 years combined, only one book stood out as being gargantuan in complexity and size and all that sort of thing, and that was Gravity's Rainbow. So this year, things changed. I don't know why. Maybe it's a work-life balance thing, but I just started reading a lot more books and just getting back into the rhythm of reading, just sitting down and reading long passages for a long period of time, and I'm enjoying it. This has been a really good year, so I thought I'd share it with you. So I'm going to start with two short stories that I read recently. The first one is Escape from Spiderhead by 10th of December. I read it about 2-3 weeks ago. Quite a good short story. Get through it in a short period of time. Very prescient. Good stuff going on in it. It's my second foray into George Sanders' work after Lincoln in the Bardo, which I do need to revisit. I have a feeling I'd like that a lot more the second time around. But as it stands, Escape from Spiderhead is a good short story. I can see why people absolutely love him. I'm still not entirely convinced, but I'm going to keep giving him a shot. I'm probably going to read this entire short story collection just from this one book alone, probably before the end of the year. So, Escape from Spiderhead. The second short story was Drive My Car from Haruki Murakami's Men Without Women. Good short story. I very much prefer his realism over his more, I don't know if you call it magical realism, but you know how he incorporates that sort of mystical or fantastical element into his works. That's why I probably liked Norwegian Wood a lot more than I did. I think the other one was After Dark, and probably prefer it over Kafka at the Shore, One Up Bird Chronicle. I don't know, I haven't read those sort of things. But Drive My Car is a fascinating short story. One of a man whose cheating wife dies of cancer, and he hires himself a woman driver to drive him around to the theatre where he's performing in a play based on, I think, a Russian play. I can't remember who the Russian playwright was. And he's pretty much just reminiscing and is going on and on to the driver about his thought processes about the wife's death and the people she cheated on. A good short story, highly recommended. So that was Drive My Car. Then the first book of the year I read was a novelization. So it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino. Very quick read. It's this edition here is about 400 pages exact. Got through it in a couple of days. As a fan of that time period, I was hooked immediately. And in terms of dialogue, it's very good. Obviously, because it's Quentin Tarantino. The sentences themselves are okay, but you read it for the dialogue, and it's snappy, it's punchy, gets to the point. Lots of references. There's a shitload of references in this book here to various movies and TV shows, some of which I've never even heard of before. So it was a good insight to that industry. And you get a lot more backstory. So if you're a fan of the movie, then I recommend this because it's not an exact replica. It's got different things going on here that are not in the movie and vice versa. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The next one is one that I read because Guillermo del Toro made a movie of it, and that is Nightmare Alley by William Lindsay Gresham. Fascinating book, absolutely fascinating. It's split into three different parts, and it's the story of this carny who basically goes off and does his own thing where he starts giving fake seances and trying to read people's minds. Obviously, it's all fake, and he basically gets his comeuppance by the end. Written, I think, in the 1940s by an absolute drunkard. I think the author was a massive drunk, but it's I wouldn't exactly call it brilliant, but it's really good writing, and it very adheres to that time period. So it's sort of a very neo-noir type thing, or just a noir type thing. You're reading it and you feel as though you're in this fog on a dark alleyway street. It's quite atmospheric, and there's some good what I'd call flashback scenes involving his family, which I think were the highlights of this book. So that's Nightmare Alley. The next one might go down as quite possibly my favourite read of the year, or at least part of it. Geek Love by Catherine Dunn. An absolute cult classic of a book, winner. It was a National Book Award finalist. It's also sick and depraved and twisted. There are so many things going on in this book that probably shouldn't be mentioned on camera, but needless to say, the short story involving the man who wears a bag over his face, I'll leave it at that. How he comes to have the bag over his face due to a deformity, which is pretty shocking how it comes by. It's probably one of my favourite scenes I've read all year. It will stick with me for a very long time. The modern aspects to the book I did not find to be as, not only as articulate, but to be as good as the flashback scenes, which the flashback scenes take roughly two-thirds to probably, I'd say probably 2/3 of the book are dedicated to the actual Carney family themselves, and those to me are the greatest bits of literature I've read all year. Very good stuff, very good stuff. Good damn book, Geek Love. Now we come to probably the biggest disappointment of the year thus far. That is Chuck Palahniuk's The Invention of Sound. I can't say much more about it because honestly I've forgotten a lot about this book, particularly the second half. It has two concurrent storylines that intertwine at various points, mostly towards the end, and it follows his private detective Foster Gates, who's trying to find his daughter. And there's a woman who records screams that get put into films, and it sort of gets a bit convoluted towards the end, and I just did not think much of it. It's nowhere near as good as Fight Club. Well, that's maybe I will return to Fight Club and I won't like it as much. I don't know. People can tell me if they think his other books are better. I keep hearing Survivor and Haunted and Choke are good work, so I'm not writing Chuck off yet. But this to me was the biggest disappointment of the year. The next one is the biggest book I read this year. It's only just shy of 600 pages, but I thought because of the movie coming out, I'd give it a shot. I've had 2 attempts at reading this book, and both times I failed. I couldn't get past the first 50 pages, probably due to the politics of it all. I didn't realize there was so much politics involved. But then early on this year, I picked it up, I read it, and I just found myself hooked. And honestly, the best parts were the politics. I just couldn't get enough of it. So much stuff going on here. This is pretty much one big hunk of just world building, just building up. Obviously, to set in course the books that remain in the series. I do have one of them. I can't remember if it's Children of Dune or Dune Messiah or something like that. The second book in the series. That's how much I like this book. I went out and got the second one. But this is a damn good bit of sci-fi. I can see why people say that it's one of the high peaks of science fiction novels, or why it's one of the most influential books of its type, alongside Philip K. Dick and even the guy that wrote Solaris, or the guys that wrote Roadside Picnic, which is also a good book. I recommend that one as well. But this is a fascinating book, and I really enjoyed it, and I most likely will get to the rest of the series. Dune. The Devil All the Time. Brutal book, absolutely brutal. So many characters going on in here, so many storylines, so many time periods. I really liked it. I really like this book. I highly recommend it. Donald Ray Pollock has not written much, but what he has written I hear is great, including his first one, Knock 'em Stiff, which I do want to get to. But the storyline involving the two preacher brothers, one in the wheelchair and the other one, and how their plot line, how it moves along, I found to be the most interesting aspect of the whole book, and how they come to the conclusion, basically. It's a very macabre situation. In fact, all the storylines in this book are macabre. so much anti-religion going on in this book. Really good stuff, and for fans of Southern Gothic in particular, even though this doesn't take place in the South, but it strongly reminded me of just the Southern Gothic genre of Cormac McCarthy, or even recently Flannery O'Connor. I found so much to like about this. I'm at a loss of words. This is a damn fine piece of work. So apart from Chuck Palahniuk's book, the rest of the stuff I'd read up to this point, have been phenomenal. I thought I'd give a play I try. So I read Sam Shepard's Buried Child. I was a huge fan of Sam Shepard as an actor, and sadly he passed away not long ago, but I did not care for this as much as I would have liked. I just didn't find, I found it to be a bit static. The writing, the dialogue, it did not sit well with me. Absolutely astonished this won the Pulitzer Prize, but maybe I'm in the minority here. Maybe I'm one of 10 people on the planet who just did not relate to this book as much. I don't hate it. I just thought it was going to be a hell of a lot better than it actually was. But yeah, it's a short one, so you can get through it in a short period of time if you wanted to. Yeah, Sam Shepard's Buried Child. Another short story collection is What We Talk About When We Talk About Love by Raymond Carver. Somewhat bleak outlooks on life, but there's honestly a few short stories in here where it just deals with the more violent aspects of domesticity. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but domestic life, pretty much. The title short story I didn't mind at all, but there's one involving a father and a son, and this almost mentally handicapped guy who ends up killing his girlfriend or wife, and he has this fish pond that he won't let people fish in, and also the short story at the start where the guy is selling everything must go. The basis for the full movie starring Will Ferrell. There's a few short stories in here that I thought were quite fascinating, but there's also a couple in here that I absolutely have no memory of, even a month after reading this. He's considered a master of his craft, and I do want to read Cathedral. That's probably an endorsement, basically, to say that I did like this book, but I think it might be just a tad overrated, maybe just a tad. But you can't like them all. What we talk about when we talk about love. The next one is one of the more recent releases here. So Ethan Hawke's A Bright Ray of Darkness. It's got about a superstar actor who has addiction issues, sexual issues, and he's just going to Broadway to star in his first play. I was hooked immediately. I like that sort of thing. Kind of reminded me of Birdman a little bit, except the actor is like half the age as Michael Keaton was in that film there. And I really, really liked it. I think for a novel by an actor, it's one of the better ones out there. He's certainly got away with words, and obviously this is coming from Ethan Hawke, who was nominated for a couple of Screenwriting Academy Awards, so he does know how to write. And I will say this, that the scene involving his reconciliation with his father in a bar is one of the most beautiful and poignant moments of the year for me. It's a wonderful, wonderful moment. If you could somehow find online where that page is and just read that section there, I think you'll be set. There's also a section involving one of the actors who went to, I think it was Burning Man, and he met an Indian there and took a substance, and his description of floating off the ground and leaving Earth and going into the blackness is probably one of my favorite bits of writing as well of the year. So lots to like about this book here. I recommend it, Bright Ray of Darkness. Also a fantastic title. The next one is my third foray into Flannery O'Connor. I read her short stories, A Good Man's Hard to Find and Everything That Rises Must Converge. Love them both. She is a phenomenal short story writer, one of the best short story writers of all time, in my opinion. But I thought I'd give her novels a go, and because I couldn't find The Violent Buried Away, it's an absolutely hard book to find. If I try to order off Amazon, there's like a 2-month wait. This one, on the other hand, was a 1-day delivery, so I quickly snapped it up before the last copy was gone, and I read Wise Blood. Short book, you can read it in no time at all, and I was absolutely surprised, at least going by the back blurb. I thought it was going to be so much different than what it actually was, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. This is a really well-written book. Obviously, it's one of her earlier stuff because there's a few, I'd point out just a tiny, tiny amount of flaws in this book here, particularly with its structure and how it transitions from one scene to the next. But as a whole, that's just minor quibbles. This is a phenomenal bit of writing. And of the South, of Southern Gothic, of American literature, it's a titan of its type. Wonderful stuff here, Wise Blood. Cool. The next one is a memoir, and that's the one that I recently did a video on, Blue Nights. Joan Didion, in terms of non-fiction, is untouchable. I think she is the Queen of California. I think this might go down as probably one of only 2 memoirs or 3 that I've read in my entire life. So I don't really have a grasp on the whole memoir structure and what's considered good or not. But I like this one. I liked it quite a bit. Obviously, it is about her daughter's death, but it's also more to do with her grievances and her approach to later life, and obviously her ideas on how she was a good mother, or whether she was a good mother or not. So heavy stuff. Recommended. Blue Nights. The next one's a bit of an outlier, and that is Nina Simone's Gum, this beautiful hardcover book here by multi-instrumentalist Warren Ellis. And I thought it was just going to be about that. I thought it was just going to be an entire thing talking about the concert that Nina Simone played at, and then him going on stage and getting the gum, including there's a fascinating section where he's almost described as being, I pictured like Gollum from Lord of the Rings just crawling onto the stage and picking up this thing that referred to as precious. At least that's how it was written, how after she leaves the stage, everyone's piling out to leave, and Warren Ellis is just climbing onto the stage and getting this piece of gum wrapped in a towel. But it's also more of a biography. It's the first section of it all is about Warren Ellis and how he came to be part of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. He's travels throughout Europe and the people that he met along the way. There's also it's almost like a multi-visual component to it. There's lots of pictures, there's lots of text messages and messages that are interspliced throughout this thing, lots of emails. And I'll say that the ending of this book, which details him going to, I'm pretty sure it's Beethoven's grave, the way he describes it, proves to me that Warren Ellis can be a fantastic writer if he chose to go down that path as a career. Very well put. I really liked it. It's a good book and a very quick one as well. I read this in a day. So Nina Simone's Gum. The next one I haven't done a video on, or I did do a video on, but I got lost, so I don't know if I'll do a review on it. But that is Cherry by Nico Walker, probably the most profane book I have ever read. On every page there is a curse word, more curse words in this than The Wolf of Wall Street or Goodfellas put together. But it's also very snappy, good dialogue, short punchy sentences. So you can find yourself reading a couple of pages of this, but then next thing you know, it's like 50 pages later and you don't know where the time's gone. And the chapters are incredibly short. There's like 70 or 80 chapters in this book, and it's a 300-page book. And I think the ending actually surprised me, because given where Nico Walker ended up and how he was caught by police, this book almost has a positive ending or a hopeful ending of sorts. So that was a bit of a surprise. But his lead up from being this junkie to being in the army to being a junkie again to being a bank robber, there's a good trajectory here, and it makes for a fascinating read. So Cherry, good book. The next one's my most recent one, and that is Che Guevara's The Motorcycle Diaries. I'm going to do a review on this later on today. And this one, out of all the books, surprised me the most, because I was expecting something bland. I was expecting, we went to this town today, it was good, end passage. Holy shit, Ernesto can write. His writing in non-fiction is fascinating, very detailed. He gets to the point, he explains everything, and most importantly of all, I think there must be at least 100 or maybe even 200 characters in this short book alone, because every single diary entry talks about meeting new people, drinking a shitload of this tea. I don't know if it's called mate or mate tea, and this motorbike that just keeps on breaking down all the time. Eventually they abandon it and just continue on foot. And his descriptions of moving through South America to all these locations, all the way through to Colombia and Brazil and Venezuela and Peru. And his talks about going to Machu Picchu. So there's a lot of historical context as well. So you learn a lot while reading this book here. And there's even a few words in this book which I did not understand, so I did look them up. So that just shows just how smart Ernesto was. So this was a big surprise to me, yeah. The Motorcycle Diaries. All right, the last one you're going to laugh at me at, but this is a guilty pleasure read. Jeremy Clarkson's Diddley Squat, A Year on the Farm. A quick 2-hour read. And that's because I was a fan of Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime Video. For some reason, it struck a chord with me. Wonderful show to watch. And so I thought I'd give his book a read. And it's just like you'd expect. If you like his witticisms, his outlooks on life, then you'll like this book probably. And I liked it too. It's not fantastic at all. But it's homely. It's like eating a hearty soup. So that is Jeremy Clarkson's Dilly Squat, A Year on a Farm. And those are all the things that I've read so far this year. And obviously it's not much compared to what other booktubers read, but it's a lot to me because this year has been me getting back into reading, and I consider it to be a good year for me. Yeah. I hope you like what you see and some books there as well. If there's anything you want to recommend, then let me know. Other than that, have a good time, and yeah, see ya. Bye.